Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a Dream SMP podcast. This is episode 25 and today we'll be discussing the new SMP members and some recent events. As always, we refer to the characters by name and specify when we're talking about the writers, and we try to focus on analysis. Alright, welcome back to Mellohi. Unfortunately, we didn't have an episode last week. We had a guest, but unfortunately their audio wasn't saved.
Yeah, it didn't work out. That's okay.
Sag.
We'll do it again at some point.
We might do another episode with them.
Yeah, we'll make it up somehow. But that's okay, because it gave us time to get all of the new members on, or all the new Dream SMP members on, and figure out some lore stuff. And the Elytra event happened, so we can talk about that a little.
We have 3 new members.
Yes! Tina, Boomer, and Aaron. I don't know. I think Aaron's just goes by Aaron. I know Tina's like Tina Kittens, and then Boomer is Boomer NA. And Aaron is Tommy's like childhood friend who's also a streamer.
School friend.
I don't know. They said they met in like 3rd grade or something, right? Like that. He looked pretty young. I guess I would call it a childhood friend. And then Tina, who is a part of like. Is she an Amigop? Is that what she is? Or is she Salad Gang? I don't know. She's like Carl, Pokimane, Valkyrie, Sekuno. The Among Us squad.
I think she's friends with like the Dream Team.
Yeah, and she's friends with Dream, Sapnap, George, Carl, some other people. We love Tina. Everyone loves Tina. Tina's amazing. And then Boomer was the last to join. He's a frogman. I think he plays Bed Wars, right?
He's kind of previously been mentioned a lot in the Dream SMP, so people were theorizing a lot that he was going to be added.
Yeah, because he's like a part of the Munchie PvP group. So he's been friends with
and
Dream,
I think he's
Bad, Sam.
friends with, is it Hannah?
Yeah,
I think Hannah built some stuff for him on the SMP.
I think he's friends with like the Bed Wars squad. So he's friends with Hannah and Purpled. And then he's like long time friends with like the Dream Team and Bad and Puns and all of them and Sam. So he's had connections to the Dream SMP for a while. I'm pretty sure he's actually played on the SMP on Sam's account before. Well, Sam was at, I don't know if Boomer was at Sam's house or Sam was at Boomer's house. I don't know. Whenever they did the haircutting thing. But yeah, so he's like a long time friend. So it kind of makes sense that he joined.
Yeah, I think everyone who's been added is, like, it follows the same pattern as pretty much most other people on the SMP. You're friends with someone who's on it, and they say, hey, this person's cool, can we add them to Dream? And he says, yeah, let's add them.
Yeah, except I think that was, I think him and Tina were, like, more direct choices by Dream, because they're close friends with Dream. Aaron, I think, was more of a... I don't know if Tommy actually asked, because I think Tommy didn't know who was joining. So it might have just been, Dream saw him in one of Tommy's videos, and then, the one with Corpse, and then was like, yes, I will add him, because it's going to, piss Tommy the hell off, while also giving him a friend on the server. And he seems cool.
Or have you considered this alternative? Tommy messaged him over Discord saying that if he didn't add one of his friends, when he comes over to America, he's gonna bring a fork.
Yes, the threatening tactic. He just didn't know which one it was going to be. I know we have a little bit of lore already for Aaron and Boomer.
How about we go in like the order they were added? I think Aaron first, and then Tina after that, and then Boomer just a few days ago.
Yeah, Aaron was first. He was the first one we knew about. I don't even know how lore his thing is though, because it was literally someone was asking about, or like made a joke about how on his skin one of his arms is like covered in like this red stuff, and some people were saying like, oh, it's Eggpire, he could be an Eggpire guy. And then he was like, and then someone made a joke, was like, maybe he just, like, ripped someone's heart out, or, like, beat the shit out of somebody before he joined. And he's like, yeah, I like that interpretation. So I think now, his skin, canonically, is covered in blood from him ripping someone's heart out right before he joined the SMP. No joke.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
I don't know how much that's canon, but it's funny at the very least.
So like, you guys talked about how, well, Tina and Dream were like definitely friends before they, before the SMP. So I feel like some of the stuff she said when she was given a tour around the SMP, some of the stuff that she said, it sort of implied that she did know Dream before she got on the SMP.
Character-wise, you think?
Character-wise, because it was an in-character tour.
Oh yeah,
Sapnap.
it was, because Sapnap gave her
That sounds like it's...
his little rundown of the history of the
That
server.
makes sense, because that's like a good starting point to build up a character. It's just take like the basic in real life relationships and say, okay, let's apply this somewhat to the story, and that will give the basis of the character, and then they can evolve from there, which is basically what happened with most people's characters.
Yeah, most of the early people, definitely. I don't remember exactly what she said. That her little tour was interesting though, because like Quackity, Sapnap, and I think Carl were all like mildly in character the entire time. And said some interesting things. Quackity tried to get her into politics, but to make money.
No, but it would be really funny if she actually does run for president of the entire SMP. Because that means we can also, Rambu can also bring back his original plan of becoming president.
Yes. We're gonna run for president. It's not L'Manberg, but it is president of somewhere.
Of something. Of somewhere. Of a country that doesn't exist.
I'm trying to think. Sapnap gave his sort of like historical recounting of his version of events on the SMP, which honestly, not the most unbiased recount that I've seen from a character in the SMP. He wasn't so bad, and he actually admitted at the end of it that he's like, well, this is just my perspective on it, so I'm a little biased, but like, it wasn't too bad, at least from like the Dream Team side of things.
I mean, to be fair, he was kind of on Dream's side for most of the conflicts.
Yeah.
And all the way up until the dethronement, in which case, bruh. But also other stuff that we heard from Sapnap is that apparently he still wants Dream. He still wants to invite Dream. He wants Dream to come out of prison and invite him to his wedding, and that's the only citizens of Kinoko and Dream are allowed.
Yeah,
are allowed to go to his wedding.
Oh god,
Oh,
Sapnap's relationship with Dream is like, he's always contradicting himself over it.
Yeah.
Because he also said, like, I don't know if he said it outright, but a lot of people were interpreting something of what he said to be that he wanted to visit Dream more often in prison and tried to, but couldn't because Sam wouldn't let him in.
That actually kind of makes sense with how his only visit ended.
Yeah, that does make sense with how it ended, but then it brings up the question of, like, oh god, it brings up why Bad didn't, because, like,
okay, Bad not visiting kind of makes sense.
To be fair, Bad had the egg. Bad had the egg, yes.
Bad had the egg, yeah.
But
and
also,
it's very possible that even though Sam let him be a guard, Sam wasn't letting people visit Dream. Because when you think about it, the last time he let someone visit Dream was Tommy. And that went terribly wrong. And then after that, it was only Quackity. So I wouldn't, and, you know, he had a lot more to hide. So it kind of makes sense that after Bad and then Tommy dying or whatever, no one was let in.
It'll be kind of interesting if, like, Sapnap or just people in general start getting more suspicious of the prison.
Yes, we're already getting
definitely.
some of that with the new people.
So everybody's, like, yelling at the new people for questioning why they decided to lock up a guy who apparently they can't answer why he's locked up. It's a bad person. I like that they're questioning that because and to everyone who says that it's already been done, no, not really. They did it for, like, it doesn't count if they only do it for, like, 5 minutes in a video and then just never do it again.
Yeah.
Because
like,
it does feel like they're actually going somewhere with this.
Yeah. And
especially since Tina's implied a connection with Dream.
I like the fact that it just makes a lot of sense. Like, I know people are getting upset about people being like, well, why are they, like, questioning the fact that he's in there, and then why are they not giving like a straight answer? But it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because obviously the new members have no idea of anything that Dream has done, and so all they hear is yes, and most of them were invited by Dream canonically, so of course they're gonna be like, okay, why
it is kind of funny when you see people say like, oh, they're just saying that because they don't know anything about the lore. And then, like, Michael McChill
knows the lore. Like, he watched the videos.
Honestly, very biased in certain ways, summary of the lore.
Yeah.
And he still decided that his character was gonna be a Dream apologist.
I don't even say, like, Dream apologist yet. It's just, like, okay, if you're invited to, you are invited to the land owned by someone you used to know, but were only ever really acquaintances with. You arrive, find out that they've been imprisoned. No one's giving you a straight answer for why. No one knows what happens in this prison except for the warden, who anytime you mention it goes dead, like, stone serious and seems ominous as hell. Like, if I was there, like, I would 100% be questioning everything everyone's telling me, because I never experienced those things myself, so I don't know if who's, like, you know, giving an unbiased recounting. And so, like, and even then, it's hard to believe that someone can be bad enough, especially because, you know, Minecraft lives are kind of, you know, whack compared to, you know, normal people in the real world, so obviously they're gonna have different standards. So, like, anyone going on there being like, okay, you're telling me he's a bad guy, but this seems like a pretty severe punishment, and you didn't kill him for whatever he did, you're just telling me he's a bad guy. So obviously you're gonna question that. Like, if you just get told, like, yeah, this person was a terrible person and they did bad things, and then no one tells you what those bad things are, and it's some sort of, like, creepy, like, eerie, like, government black box, like, yeah, no, I'm gonna 100% be like, okay, that's suspicious as hell. Like, I don't know if I believe you all, but I'm not gonna outright state that, because, you know. And, you know, with Boomer and Tina, it makes a special sense, because, like, if their characters, if they're going based off of, you know, like, real life relationships, then their characters knew Dream, and Tina, I think, said that she didn't think Dream was the type of person who was, like, a bad person enough to be locked away like that. So obviously, no, it makes perfect sense for them all to be, like, questioning it. Even if their characters, like, even if they, like, out of character actually know what happened, like Michael, like, no. Actually, wait, no, we should talk about Michael, because he did lore. He did lore, and I don't think we've mentioned it yet, because he had his little radio broadcast type thing, with his character's sort of thoughts and experiences so far in the SMP, which really sort of cement the idea of, like, yeah, this SMP is fucking whack, guys.
I really like the idea that L'Manberg is, like, cursed. I think that's a really cool concept.
Oh yeah, I think I mean, it tracks too when you think about it. Like, everyone just mentions this place that was completely and utterly destroyed and nothing left but a crater, which has healed over now.
Think even from the perspective of a character who just joined the server.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever they hear about L'Manberg, it's always going to be in relation to the conflict surrounding L'Manberg.
Yeah, it's
always going to be about them having a war for independence. It's always going to be about Manberg. It's always going to be about Doomsday. It's always going to be about L'Manberg causing conflict.
Yeah. And, like,
because no one's going to talk about, like, the periods in between all the wars and stuff where people kind of just hung out, because there's nothing interesting to talk about with that.
Yeah. Which I think that's why I kind of liked Sapnap's sort of recounting of what the history of the Dream SMP was like, because normally when you do hear the history of the SMP, it's from the L'Manberg side of things, right? So you get
always
the whole
about L'Manberg.
You get the whole it was for independence, blah 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 blah. But Sapnap sort of, you know, gave the perspective of, like, well, when it was before L'Manberg, before, like, Tommy and Tubbo, everything was chill. And after they joined, everything fell apart. Which technically is kind of true, because prior to Tommy and Tubbo joining the SMP, the conflicts were all very, very minor, and like not a lot happened. So obviously,
It was very
people, not
personal.
sides.
yeah,
Like,
obviously
people having grudges with other people. It's not people fighting other people because they're on the same side.
yeah. And obviously, from Sapnap's point of view, like, prior to Tommy and Tubbo joining the SMP was probably the best part of the SMP, other than, you know, getting to fight people, which I imagine he enjoys a lot. So, like, it makes sense to hear from his side of the story. It was like, well, Tommy and Tubbo are the problems, and they're terrible. Because honestly, that's probably his experience with Tommy and Tubbo. And so when people are like,
That reminds
Yeah.
me of the whole thing where Skeppy first joined,
what did Skeppy do when he first
where like the moment he met like Tommy and Tubbo and
Second day on the
Lemberg, he was
SMP.
just immediately like, you should have blown it up more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People
Yeah.
are like, oh, ooh, woo, Tommy, Tubbo, they're just children. And then you actually meet them and you go, wow, they're assholes. You should have blown up their country more.
Yeah. But no, like, I thought it was kind of ridiculous that, like, looking at the chat, especially when Sapnap was talking, it was like a lot of people being like, he's lying. It's like, no, he's not lying. It's just his perspective of things. Like, obviously, from his point of view, you know, Tommy and Tubbo and Lemberg were the cause of all the problems, not the Dream SMP, until he gives that sort of reveal later of that everyone thought like what was it? He was like talking about how like a bunch of things were going wrong. Everyone thought it was Tommy, and then he did his whole like little dramatic thing of like, but it was really Dream, and then sort of, I don't know. It's interesting because it kind of shows how out of touch Sapnap is, but how in touch he is at the same time. Like, he knows all this stuff. It's biased from his perspective, which is something he admits, but at the same time, like, I don't know, he hits, like, the big points, but not the details. Like, he doesn't have any idea, like, why Dream did what he did. And he doesn't really get, like, why Tommy and Tubbo do half the crap that they do. So, I don't know, it's just interesting, because, like, it is a biased recounting
I
of the
think
history, but...
something that people forget a lot when like talking about lore is the fact that we're able to see all the perspectives, even if some people don't bother looking at other perspectives.
Yeah.
While the characters only have their own.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Sapnap... People were saying, like, he was lying and whatever. Like, he's not lying. It's just
an
his...
example,
it's all he knows.
like Exile Art.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we got to see all of that happen, but really no other character but Tommy
And Sam.
saw that happen all in its entirety. They all only either saw none of it, or they only saw fragments of it.
Yeah.
And Sam only knows
Like, even
what
Dream.
happened in Exile because Dream told him what happened in Exile. Like, do you guys even realize?
Yeah,
do
and
they
even Dream
realize what
didn't
they're
see
saying
a
when they
lot
say,
of
"You should
Exile.
know
He only
all
saw
about
the
Exile."
parts that he was there for.
It's just, I don't know.
It's entirely possible he had no idea that his actions had such an impact on Tommy because he wasn't there for everything else that happened during Exile while he was not present.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, it's just interesting because, like, a lot of the characters of the SMP don't have as much information as we do, except Puffy, who for some reason has canonical access to VODs.
I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't know how that works, but you know what? I like the whole joke that it's because she's secretly stealing the memories of the SMP citizens. Regardless, which is why everyone has like amnesia. But just in general, like the characters of the SMP don't have as much information as we do. So obviously, it's not like they're purposefully lying when they give when they give biased accounts. It's just their perspective. And so when a lot of people were saying, like, well, Sapnap's lying, he's like, no, he's not lying. It's just, it's a perspective that you don't see because you get Lemberg's side of things more often than you get the Dream Team side, because no one on the Dream Team side ever well, none of them ever streamed, but none of them ever, like, gave their side of the early SMP conflict and, like, fighting against Lemberg and why they thought that was necessary. Like, that's not lying. It's just not a side you normally hear. So instead of saying they're lying, you should be like, oh, so this is Sapnap's point of view of like what has happened on the server, and it's very different from the Lemanberg side because the Lemanberg has a persecution complex.
Yeah, like I think if you've listened to this episode, if you've listened to this podcast before, you probably know that we are fairly critical of Lemanberg.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be a far stretch to say we're Lemanberg antis, but you know what? Lemanberg deserves to have antis because Lemanberg sucks. There you go. But, yeah, no. Lemanberg is, oh man, we could do a whole Lemanberg episode where we just talk shit. But that's not the point of this podcast.
That's not what we're here for.
Okay. So, alright, we were talking about Michael's lore briefly. So yeah, so Michael did like a 5-minute stream, black screen with just audio, which was really interesting to listen to. And just sort of talking about how his experiences so far on the SMP are, everyone here is fucking whack. I keep hearing about Lemanberg and about Dream being locked in prison, but it's all sort of this mysterious, like, bad figure that everyone is saying is a bad person, but I have no one is willing to express. I've never met the man, and no one is willing to tell me what he did that was so horrible. And then I keep hearing stories about Lemanberg, and it's haunted. It's like this place that, I don't know, there's something wrong with this SMP. There's something wrong with the people here. And he talks about how, like, I think Foolish and then some other people were threatening to burn down his house for no reason, as a prank or a joke, or because they wanted something that they could have asked for. But I don't know, it just kind of, it's a very interesting perspective, because we very rarely have new members of the SMP join and immediately be like, okay, well, this place is fucking whack. Something is wrong with this place. Usually they just fall into the chaos the same as everyone else. But it's kind of interesting to have someone be, like, coming in and being like, no, this place is not normal. This is not how servers work.
I like about Michael's, because I think I've heard people say that he wants to continue with, like, the whole radio team and doing interviews with people, is it actually, like, matches up with this old, like, OC idea I had ages ago of, like, what would make an interesting Dream SMP character. And my version was a historian, but the idea is the same, is that there's a character who comes onto the server not really knowing anything, and is very determined to talk to everyone and get everyone's perspective and trying to figure out what the actual truth is.
Honestly, we need that on that server though, because like, how often a lot of the popular...
How often is everything misremembered? How often do people look at something and go XXX and then just completely forgot the actual reason? Like, Dream's not in prison for any justice or legal reasons. He's in there because he's got the revive book and he's too useful to kill off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the server is a place of, inaccuracy, I guess is a good word. It's a place of bias. Like, everyone in it has such strong, like, emotional reactions.
A lot of it is just, like, it's really interesting to me because, I am currently doing history. Just for some context, I'm not, like, studying it in university. I might study it in university, but I'm in my final year of second level education, and I'm doing history at that level. And here, where I live at least, the history curriculum has a very strong focus on bias, on looking at all perspectives, at seeing, identifying propaganda. There's an entire question on our exam that is, you have to look at a document and you have to identify the bias in that document.
Oh man, you're perfect for the Dream SMP.
And that is just, like, one of the things I like about the Dream SMP is that you can actually apply these sort of, like, historical principles to it, into analyzing it, into getting information and having to assess how reliable that source is, and comparing multiple sources to try and figure out which one is more important, or drawing connections between things. And it is one of the reasons I like Dream SMP analysis so much is because of how close it is to history.
Yeah, the Dream SMP is kind of a lot like history, because when you think about it, it's a lot of winners write the history books.
Yep.
Even though the people who wrote the history book kind of weren't the winners. But like, it's a lot of the side you see are the ones who make themselves out to be the heroes. So obviously, their side, even if they, aren't really heroic, is gonna be the side that you're like, oh, okay, these are the good guys. There are no good guys on the SMP. Everyone at best is a neutral person. But most of the time,
I'm pretty sure I've said this before on this, but I am so annoyed whenever somebody says this character can't be morally grey because they've done a bad thing.
That's not how it works, fam.
Doing bad things is a prerequisite to being a morally grey character. If they didn't do any bad things, they wouldn't be a morally grey character. They'd just be a good character. In the sense of like morally good.
Yeah, everyone on the SMP is honestly, at best I'll say they're neutral.
They're realistic.
Like, I wouldn't go out and say, like, yes,
they
you're all
like
horrible, bad people. But they aren't good people.
They act like actual people who do bad things and good things, and do bad things with good intentions, and bad things with bad intentions, and good things with bad intentions.
And that's kind of the advantage of it being, like, and part of the reason it's like that is because it's a role play and not, like, a scripted TV show. Mm-hmm. A lot of the characters are informed by the people playing them. It's not like they have one writer in the background like, okay, well, this character is gonna be like this. No, it's yes, I am playing on the Dream SMP and I want to, I don't know, I like building, so I'm gonna build, and then whatever their character just comes out of that.
One thing about roleplay is that honestly your characters will often have a lot of you in them, just for the fact that you have to improvise playing them.
Yeah, like there's no way around that.
Your character can be very different to you, but you will still draw on your own experiences and your own personality and how you act to construct how your character acts.
Yeah, it's all very informed by you as a person. Obviously that doesn't mean the character's the same as you, but like, it's like playing a Dungeons and Dragons character, you know? Like, obviously, you're the one making the decisions, and it's all sort of like improv, so it's not the same as you are the character to some extent.
Like, to use the Dungeons and Dragons example, like, a player who is very focused on maybe the strategy and the winning the game kind of thing is going to have a character who is more concerned with those type of things, because what's fun for that player to play is going to inform how that character acts.
Exactly.
Well, for instance, somebody who's maybe more into like the world building character stuff might have a character that's really interested in learning about every new town they visit, or always talks to people and has a ton of friends.
Yeah.
Because what that player wants out of the role play is different, so their character is different due to that.
Yeah. And that's the case with the Dream SMP because it's a role play. So like, I had a point before, but I don't remember what it is now. But yeah, no, so just in general, the roleplay is gonna be more, the characters are gonna be more realistic. They're more like actual people because they're being very, very much informed by actual people playing them. It's like
they're not being written to fulfill a role.
Yeah, and at the end of it, like, they aren't trying to like serve necessarily like a specific message either at any given point. It's mostly to entertain.
Honestly, I just hate the whole message thing. Like,
I hate it too.
The only place where you should expect to see any kind of moral message is in children's media. That is the only place.
Well,
and that doesn't even necessarily have to be moral. So a lot of the time, it's just
not necessarily like not moral messages, but like themes and like
themes can pop up because they develop naturally.
But I just think there's this expectation that I think a lot of people have that there has to be a message in a story,
No,
that it
doesn't.
cannot just be
There doesn't.
a story. Cannot just be
A story.
people. It cannot just be people acting in a certain way.
It has
That if something bad happens to a character, it means that the message the author is trying to send that character has done something to deserve it, rather than a bad thing just happening to that character.
Yeah.
It's like people in this fandom seem to just expect it's purity culture, but also people in this fandom expect that because they're big content creators and stuff, that they're gonna have a super good, super moral, quote unquote, message for the Dream SMP, that they're gonna do stuff that will cater to everyone's expectations about what kind of message, quote unquote, they should be delivering through the medium of their story, and that's just stupid. It's a role play. You can expect that out of like actual media where everything is planned out in advance, where the characters are planned out and designed in advance, where all the interactions are plotted out word by word. You don't expect that in a freaking roleplay. Like, have you ever?
Like, there's a ton of stuff about the Dream SMP that could definitely be considered like problematic. It was an actual like professionally written piece of media, written by a group of writers, like a team of writers, and produced by a big company. Like the fact that Quackity has this big association with drugs. That would be like a bad thing to have in a professionally produced TV show.
Yeah.
But it's like...
But because it's roleplay, it's solely just because this guy, he's Mexican, decides to make fun of a stereotype.
Yeah.
No, it's just like DSMP isn't a professional media. It's a roleplay. Like I would be surprised if you ever started it's a spontaneous roleplay too. Like I'd be very, very surprised if anyone who's ever started spontaneous roleplays with either their friends or strangers online and decided that they wanted to write a message into whatever story they're telling or game they're playing.
Okay, so
like often there is this whole thing where writers will tend to have similar themes.
Yeah, I was gonna say
in what they write, just because it's what they're interested in, and that can show up in roleplay. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire roleplay is about that. It means that individual writer writing that character happens to like stories that revolve around a certain theme.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to make it, I like to compare it to Dungeons and Dragons a lot because I have a lot more experience with like that kind of like roleplay. Like that's the most like well-known type of roleplay I can think of.
You've got like sets of rules, but then otherwise that determine how you interact with the universe. But otherwise, you can do anything you want.
Right, and so I think one of the things that a lot of people, like with Critical Role, for example, which is like one of the biggest like D&D sort of live things, the way that they do it is that it is sort of improv, and it's but the characters and the DM still have an idea of what kind of story they want to tell. So they're not trying to send some sort of like moral message necessarily, but there is like a theme they want to explore. Like with Campaign 2, their DM talked about how what he really wanted to explore theme-wise was sort of like what we consider monsters, and sort of like the good versus evil of calling certain races in D&D monsters and stuff like that, and how it's more complicated than that. And so, like, with the Dream SMP, you can kind of see, like, there are certainly themes in it. Like, I think one of the biggest themes across the entire SMP is, like, this cycle of violence, and then the corruption of absolute power and stuff like that.
The thing about one of the themes is actually, like, the whole thing with attachment, and how you've got basically two separate plots that explore in different ways. You've got the Disc War arc, which is very much attachment good, and then you have the Egg arc, which is leaning more towards attachment bad, and they're both exploring the same themes, but one's exploring the positive side and one's exploring the negative side.
I would argue that the Disc War is also like a more negative version of attachment, because Tommy does become very focused and obsessed with his discs to the point of hurting his friends. I think both
of those arcs are sort of exploring the power of attachment, both for good and for bad. Because
I think Tommy's flaw is that at times he saw his attachment to the discs as more important than his attachment to Tubbo.
That's what I was saying.
And that's why the sort of conclusion of the Disc War is him deciding once and for all that Tubbo is more important than the disc.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, the Disc War and the Egg War, the Egg Arc, I mean, is about attachment in a way, because it's the story. Both stories deal with like, what are you willing to do for the things that you are attached to? And so in the Disc War, we kind of see like the negatives and the positives of that. It was like, we see how attachments can cause you to be controlled by something. Like, it'll control your emotions, because if you care about something, then obviously you're going to prioritize that above all else to some extent, and how those can then be used to like control and attach you. But how with Tommy, like, being attached can be a danger if you're putting that above other things, right? So like, him putting the discs above Tubbo was dangerous.
And that's very much with the Egg Arc as well.
Yeah, and it's the same with the Egg Arc.
And that's focusing more on the idea of letting your attachment control you and putting it above everything else.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of interesting, because you can actually make a really interesting parallel between the disc confrontation and Tommy and Tubbo, and then the Egg and Bad and Skeppy.
Yeah, it's I don't know, both of those arcs have like attachment things.
Tommy gave up the discs for Tubbo, Bad punched Skeppy into lava.
But like, so with like the Disc War, you get sort of there's the good side of it, because ultimately what helps Tommy, what is putting Tommy in danger is attachments, but also what saves him is attachments, because it's the rest of the server coming together and realizing that they want to help him and protect themselves as well.
Oh,
and Dream cutting off.
It's not that they want to help Tommy, it's that Dream pissed them off enough that they wanted to.
Okay, well, they kind of want to help Tommy.
About the disc confrontation, it was
Nikki
about
and
fear.
Jack hate Tommy, and
they were
showed
afraid
up.
of him.
Okay, not everyone, but most of them. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But like, both of those stories are things that deal with attachments, and some of it's like negative and some of it's good. Because like, I think, so with the Disc War, it's showing that sort of polarity that like, attachments can be used to control you, yes, but if you have no attachments, then what will you have to help you in the end either? It just depends on, it's value. It shows you like, you're supposed to value other people over items, and I don't know, it's complicated. And then the Egg Arc does the same thing with that, but like, you can see how those are two arcs that have very strong themes dealing with attachments. And then like with L'Manberg and the prison, you see the sort of like this sort of theme around like absolute power can corrupt even the strongest
But also, I think
people.
one interesting thing about if you're comparing L'Manberg and the prison, is how they both deal with the concept of freedom.
Yeah. Expand.
Basically, the whole thing of L'Manberg is they were not being oppressed.
No.
They got annoyed that people got mad at them for stealing their stuff.
Yes.
And then Wilbur created this sort of false divide between the Europeans and the Americans on the server. But they would always claim, oh, we are fighting for independence, we're fighting for freedom. And in a way, you can compare that, like, contrast that to the prison, where there's actually someone who, like, is being imprisoned, is actually fighting for their freedom.
Yeah.
Someone who is actually acting like a tyrant.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you compare the way people react and how the fandom views those two arcs, and it is the complete opposite of what you might think.
Yeah.
It's just.
But like, you can also tell like those things are not necessarily like, they are like being explored in a somewhat deliberate manner, but it's also like, it's not like trying to lecture the audience and like educate them necessarily.
Wait, I just realized something. You know how Dream has said that he hasn't left, like, content creator Dream has said that he hasn't left his house in like 8 months? Yeah, I'm wondering if Dream being stuck in prison is him, like,
His vent
venting
soda
about
again?
that.
I
to
hate
his
the fact
Minecraft
that there's
OC.
this whole thing about how Dream's character is just his vent soda, and I hate the fact that theory becomes more and more accurate every day. Oh my god.
I mean, it's like, it's a pretty accurate Vensona. This one guy is hated for doing stuff that he did do and stuff that he didn't do, by universally hated, and everything he's gonna do is always constantly being criticized.
Yeah.
And people believe that he can't change even if he's like apologized for stuff that he's done that he knows is bad.
Yeah. Oh man, now we're just being sad about Dream having a Vensona. Let's get back on topic. Right, so basically the point of that whole conversation was like the Dream SMP is exploring themes, but don't expect it to be some sort of morality play where it's trying to teach you how to be a good or bad person and what is, you know, okay to do, and like people deserve certain punishment, because that's not the point of the SMP. The point of the SMP is entertainment, and then the themes that are coming out from that is just because that's what the CCs are interested in, and it's sort of just a natural progression. They aren't trying to be like, yes, we are a shining example of like what abuse will do to someone, or how like people should be punished or whatever. Like, no, that's not the point of the SMP. The point of the SMP is entertainment, and honestly, if you're expecting them to give some sort of like perfect exploration of the effects of this or that, and then like,
I think a lot of issues that people also have is like, guys, Exile Arc is not the entire story. Exile Arc is like a tiny portion of the story.
Exile Arc was like 1 month.
You cannot expect the entire plot. It was less than a month. It was less than 2 weeks. It was like 11 days.
Oh my god.
You cannot expect the entire story to focus on Exile Arc, right?
Yeah. It happened almost a year ago now. It only lasted 11 days. It is part of the story. Why is everyone just so focused on it? It impacts
Tommy's character. Like, it has impacted how his character acts. But, like, there is no reason for the other characters to care about it at all. Yeah. Because it is not something that directly impacts them in any way.
Yeah. It's
like, the world is not, despite what everyone seems to think, the world does not revolve around Tommy in it and his character.
If the story was like just Exile Arc, but Exile Arc made up most of the story, then yeah, you might want the story to go into more depth with it. But as it is a tiny, tiny fraction of the entire plot, multiple arcs. Every story that has ever been told in the Dream SMP, it is just one small part of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be treated like it's the most important part of the story when it is not. Honestly, there is no most important part of the story.
Yeah.
If writer Tommy decides that he just never wants to bring up Exile Arc in character again, he's got the right to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's his character, it's his story. If he's decided, okay, my character has moved on from this,
yeah,
he can just do that.
Yeah, he could do that. I dislike the way the fandom very much feels like they're entitled to XXYY. All these new characters, they must be Tommy's new parental figures, etc., etc.
There was also so bad with Tina, like the whole thing.
Oh yeah, there was some issues with that.
I mean, it happened. Look, Eren, it makes sense because they are friends in real life. It would make sense for that relationship to carry over into the SMP like it did with Tubbo and Wilbur and a whole bunch of other characters I probably don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But like Tina, I don't even know if she's ever done a stream with Tommy.
I think there might have been an Among Us.
I think they might have done some Among Us together, but that's about it.
But yeah, they're not a super close relationship. They're acquaintances, definitely. They're probably friends, maybe. But like, what were you? Why do you like put these labels on people who have barely even started their first day and just expect them to accept those labels and not develop their own characters? Why do you expect the writers to cater to your whims of what kind of story you want to be told? Why do you want Dream to stay locked up in prison or to die when
That's
Dream,
boring.
the content creator, is the creator of the SMP, is the owner of the SMP, and he made the server to help other people get popular, but also to play with his friends.
Guys, we're getting into Dream apologies and rants. We're good. It's fine. yeah, no.
We do actually only have a few minutes, so maybe we should just wrap this up.
Wait,
Let's just talk really quick. They just did the.
We didn't do our
We just did the Elytra challenge.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
We finally had it. It was first announced like just under a year ago, I think.
Yes, the Elytra challenge happened today. Hannah Rose is now canonically a fairy. I want to do our Ponk obligatory mention real fast. Because we had Ponk lore, and I want to talk about it really quick. Because we haven't talked about Ponk yet, and we have to. Yeah, no, so Ponk did like a really like brief piece of lore at the end of one of his streams recently, where him and Sam reconciled, but Sam didn't apologize because Sam is an asshole. But no, so Ponk and Sam met up at the community house. Sam gave Ponk a trident as a gift, and then as sort of like a recognition of that, Ponk went and got the last warden access key that Sam chopped his arm off for, and gave it to Sam. And Sam then burned it because they were useless and they didn't matter anymore anyways. And they didn't matter when he chopped Ponk's arm off. And Ponk had this nice little metaphor about how burning the warden's key card was like burning... like, he made this, like, phoenix metaphor where it was, like, doing this is, like, a sign of our new start to our relationship. And I'm just like, Ponk, kill Sam. Kick his ass. Like, you deserve it. Like, he chopped your arm off for things that don't even matter. And then today, during the Elytra challenge, Sapnap stole a bunch of the old warding key cards. And, Sam didn't do anything. Sam just was like, okay, whatever, they don't work anyways, and then like made like some like brief little deal. But yeah, so
I think he may have realized that he may have made a mistake.
Maybe, but he didn't apologize for it.
God, oh God.
If he apologized, it would mean he would be admitting he was wrong, and he can't be wrong because he's a good person.
Oh,
God,
fuck
so,
you, Sam.
Sam.
Character Sam. God, that man.
I love character Sam.
He's such a mess. Like, oh my God. Somebody take that guy to therapy. Or just, don't let him interact with people anymore because holy shit. He's doing some terrible things. But, yeah. Oh, and then Sam is working on some kind of mega massive build that we don't really know about. But he's destroying part of the world with a TNT World Eater. And it's like the size of an entire ocean.
Just as a final statement, because we're just out of time, I really hope that at some point character Sam loses it, blows up the entire SMP with that thing, and that's why they moved to 1.18.
Oh, okay.
Goodbye.
Alright, that's dark.
I believe the new mega base is, I believe it's a mega base, and because Sam's invited Boomer to live with him there.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be interesting, alright?
Oh,
He's still got another section of forest to devour.
Oh yeah. We should have more prison lore soon, guys. Just hold on tight, and then we'll have the breakout, and things can get cracking. All right. Bye everyone.
Well, thanks for listening to the 25th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can also ask us questions or just get updates about new episodes. We also have a Discord server that you can find a link to in the description. See you next time!